Everest.Live, how's it going? New look, who dis? Somebody got a shave today, and it was me. Hi, everybody, how's it going? We made it back to Kathmandu. We were very lucky, Andy and I. As many of our friends and colleagues are still stuck in Lukla, there's a huge exodus of people leaving Everest Base Camp right now, trying to make their way back to Kathmandu. And we just were able to sneak through and very fortunate that we're back in Kathmandu. Andy and I got a shave. We ate a lot of pizza and ice cream, and both promptly fell asleep. Andy's just woken up, and as promised, Spot was very, very happy to see me if she's not so happy to be on the dispatch at the moment. So, what's happening on Everest today? Today was actually an unexpectedly busy morning up on the mountain. According to the Nepal Department of Tourism representative, Kim Lal, there were 93 summits today, which is a lot more than I would have guessed. As we mentioned in our earlier mini dispatch, amongst those 93 summits, we saw Dr. Shauna Burke make it to the top at about 3 a.m. So the last we heard is she was making her way down to Camp 3. She's healthy, everything's great, and so we'll probably be still a few days until we hear from her. There's been a lot of questions kind of coming in to our messages and in our comments about Xavier, the climber from Canada, sort of a YouTube personality. It's been 5 days since we've heard from him. I would encourage everybody not to panic. This is something that we see, actually, it's one of the things we sort of saw behind the scenes at Everest Base Camp is we live in such a connected world now. And every now and then, there's some internet connectivity at Camp 2. People have snuck up sort of Starlink devices there where you can connect, but it's not super reliable. And a lot of families now are just so used to everyone being connected all the time. When people do go up on the mountain, they're going to be out of contact for 4 or 5 days easy, but people then tend to freak out. So I would say with Xavier, don't freak out. I'm sure he's fine. He'll post when he's ready to. My guess is that he's just down and too exhausted. But let's see what happens. If we find anything out about him or any other climber on the mountain, we will definitely let you know. In other news, sort of on a more somber note, we ever since the two Indian climbers died yesterday, we had a lot of questions about Arun Kumar Tiwari and what the status of his body was, and if we knew more about who the man was that passed away just above the Hillary Step with Pioneer Expeditions. So I've done some research. There was a good report in the Times of India today. I learned a bit about it. And what I learned was, sort of like Sandeep Ray, Arun Tiwari was a tech entrepreneur. He was 53 years old from Hyderabad. Also like Sandeep Ray, the other gentleman who lost his life, Arun was a passionate climber, and he was trying to do all 7 summits. He had experience climbing Denali, Aconcagua, Kilimanjaro, and Mount Elbrus. So he was working his way through. It doesn't necessarily, with those mountains, the technical, physical requirements are different than Everest, but he wasn't like a total newbie by any means. Unfortunately, he's survived by his wife and 2 kids, and it seems like it was just a case of exhaustion. He pushed himself to get to the summit and got in trouble on the way back down. We don't know if he ran out of oxygen or what the exact circumstances are, but reading between the lines and the sources I've talked to have said that. And there were also some information came out that Sandeep Ray was suffering from snow blindness, but then in the process of the rescue, he developed cerebral edema, which is a condition where in high altitude, your brain starts to swell, and that can very quickly be fatal. So yet again, our condolences and our well wishes and our love goes out to the family of both men who were lost on the mountain. It's a sober reminder of how real things can be up at Mount Everest. Now that we're back in Kathmandu, we're starting to get a lot of different reports of frostbite. This year, while the weather windows were good, while there was like good, clear weather, there was a lot of high winds. And those high winds can lead to frostbite extremely quickly, like in a matter of 30 seconds or a minute. If your hands are out of your gloves, if you can't warm them back up, that can be the end of it. When we talked to some of the climbers who went up in the heavy winds, during these less than ideal conditions and these super cold conditions. Our friend Murillo was, saying to us that, when he was heading up, his left foot got really cold because the wind was coming across the slope and hitting his left foot first. His right foot was fine. On the way back down, it was the opposite. And these are in those super, super heavy 8,000-meter boots. I know that Murillo had heated insoles in his boots. And it just goes to show how extreme the conditions are up there. And so we've been hearing in the Kathmandu hospitals that actually even some of the frostbite medications are running low, because there's been a lot of incidences of that this year. So again, our wishes and hopes are going out to everybody for a speedy recovery. It's just a sad thing and an unfortunate part of Everest climbing that we see every year. I think it's really easy to get judgmental and sort of say, well, if these people had prepared better, so on and so forth. The queues were definitely a huge part of this. You don't want to stand in line for 3 hours if you don't have to. These are things that need to be addressed on the mountain and will be addressed over time. But also sometimes these things are just part and parcel of climbing over 8,000 meters. Many, many, many climbers have faced frostbite, have faced these issues. I'm not trying to be sort of flippant about it, but it is unfortunately a common occurrence at these extreme elevations. And it's one of those things where there's like this dichotomy where everybody thinks Everest is easy, but then you have these major, major injuries that do happen all the time. And that doesn't seem to deter people from wanting to go up. If anything, it kind of creates the opposite effect. So we've had also a lot of questions about, Mr. Tiwari's body. Also a lot of questions about, Mr. Tiwari's body, which is located up at the Hillary Step, which is not that far, an hour away from the summit, well up over 8,000 meters. And the question is, will that body be brought down or will it be up there for the rest of time? Nepali law states that every expedition operating company that gets a permit has to agree that there will be no bodies left on Mount Everest. So the rule is you can't have your body left on Mount Everest if you pass away, even if that's what you and your family want. Obvious reasons for that. It's a particularly terrible form of litter, and it's something that the Nepali authorities have tried to do a lot to manage and maintain. The challenge is getting a body down from that altitude requires risking the lives of up to a dozen other Sherpa workers who have to go up there into the death zone, basically climb Mount Everest again, and be able to bring the body down from up high. It's an extremely specialized and technical type of rescue. I mean, if any of you have ever carried a mattress from one room to another room in your house, you understand how difficult it is to move an inanimate object. Now imagine doing something like that with a frozen body up high. It's very, very risky. And the minimum cost of this, the minimum cost of getting a body down from that elevation is probably $60,000 or more. I think $60,000 is on the cheap end for that. But this is what, I was speaking with the Kim Lal Gautam, the Department of Tourism representative, and this was the discussion that we had. And so what he informed me is that right now, Mr. Tiwari's family and Pioneer Expeditions and the Nepal government are trying to put together a team to bring his body down off the mountain. Whether or not they can do that, given the limited weather windows that are left, we have officially only 6 more days in the climbing season, but that means you have to be off the mountain in 6 days. It doesn't mean you can top out on the 29th and then take 3 days to come down. So basically, these teams are going to have to leave tomorrow or the day after at the latest to be able to do this recovery. And of course, at the end of the season, everyone's exhausted, and it may not be something that Sherpas want to risk their lives for, which is also somewhat completely understandable in my opinion. So this is one of those conundrums. Another thing is you can't get insurance for this, right? It would make sense if you just had an insurance policy, but the cost is so high and the risk of climbing is so high that insurance underwriters, right now, there's no available insurance for body recovery should you pass away on Mount Everest. So I'll keep you posted on what happens there. We do hope that we can bring some resolution to Mr. Tiwari's family. I hope that this has a happy ending. I hope that they're able to find teams to go up and bring the body down, that they're paid well and that it's safe. That's what everybody is working towards. I think that it's not a sure thing, but we're putting hope out there for that to happen. So let's answer some questions, and then I, like Andy, am going to go fall asleep because we are so exhausted here in the thick air. Good afternoon from South Africa. You got it. Thanks so much, and like really appreciate all the love and support all you guys have been giving us. Thank you so much, Jen Roy 9661 for the donation. Really, really appreciate it. Again, I mean, I'm like gushing at you guys every single dispatch. I'm just talking about how much we appreciate everyone, and we really do. And thank you so much for all the positive feedback. It's really kept Andy and I going as we were kind of slowly making our way to Kathmandu today. Andy and I just had a lot of time to reflect on the season. And we've just been so happy that, this dream that we had of bringing this platform, to Mount Everest and to our community was one we were able to deliver on and make come true this year. And now we're sort of dreaming, speculating, and planning about what we're going to do next to make sure that this content continues and only gets more exciting and interesting in the future. Love and light to the climbers. Rest in peace. I totally agree. Wonder if you think that improved communications is somewhat more stressful for family and friends. In the 2000s, if you didn't hear from someone for 5 days, you didn't stress. I absolutely think so. This happens in my life, right? Like I think it happens to all of us. Sometimes more communication isn't necessarily an improved quality of life, right? And I think especially in the mountains, and it's a little bit cliche, but we go to the mountains sometimes to get away from that stuff. We go to the mountains sometimes for a bit of a digital break, to be able to connect with ourselves. That's a lot of, I think, what drives adrenaline junkies and Everest climbers to go up and, find yourself. You're on the edge. It's life or death, because then you're forced to really, really connect with yourself and keep yourself alive, and you're completely in the moment. Our phones, connectivity, Starlink, the world does tend to pull us away from that. So yeah, I do agree that that's one of the things that's difficult, and one of the things that when you are climbing Everest is part of that ecosystem of things you have to consider. How does that affect your family and your loved ones? How do you communicate to them that you're going to be okay, even if they don't hear from you for a period of time? This is something the expedition operators are continually juggling. It's just part of the dynamic in the modern world. On the other hand, I loved being able to do live daily dispatches with you from Mount Everest. That's also pretty sweet. Like anything, I think it's just how you use it. Oh, thanks. I'm so glad that our updates have been helpful to you. Again, if anybody has questions, we may not always be able to answer for every single climber, but if you want to know where people are, if you know what company they're with or whatever, we will do our best to answer those questions. Just DM us. We'll, if we don't shout it out here, we've been doing a lot of this work on the DMs, talking to people directly. Feel free to reach out to us. I'm Mark from Wisconsin. Thanks so much for checking us out. Where is Spot? Spot is here. You guys want to see Spot again? One sec. She just doesn't love being on YouTube. One sec. Spot. Here's Spot. Here's Spot, everybody. She was so happy to see me when we got home, but now I've given her so many treats that I think the novelty has worn off. You'd like to support After-Live updates so that next year people can get the same support? Let us know. Absolutely. That's one of the things a lot of people mentioned, the buy us a coffee so YouTube doesn't take a cut and all that. We were just too tired at base camp to figure that out, I'm being honest. But we're going to find ways to make sure that our community can support itself, and we can keep giving you the information and the entertainment that you need and want and love, just like we do. So thanks, everybody. We thought you guys were supposed to go down to Namche for a few days of rest in between. That was kind of our plan, but then I flew a drone into my face and life happened. And honestly, we also got so just wrapped up in providing coverage that we just didn't have the chance to go down. We were just too it. I had hopes of going up to Camp 2, but there was just too much going on at base camp. And honestly, I think that worked out for the better. Next year, we might plan a break in the middle. Let's see what happens. I don't know if I'll be able to drag Andy back, but I'll do my best. So thanks, everybody. That's today's little quick dispatch. Tomorrow, we'll give you more updates as to what's happening on the mountain. The winds are supposed to increase dramatically. So I'm thinking we're going to see fewer climbers in the next couple of days. I mean, today with 93 summits, that's putting us close to 800 total. I'm thinking we're not super far off the very, very end of the season. The climbers that are left are folks like Justin, Kristen Harlila, Tyler. Oh, that's another bit of news I forgot to say. Tyler Andrews is going up tonight to try to break the fastest known time. He's leaving at 8 p.m. tonight in an hour and a half, and he's going to try to make it from base camp to the summit with no oxygen. He thinks he can do it in like 10 or 11 hours. We'll see what happens, but we've been in touch, and we do have an interview with Tyler scheduled when he gets back. So stay tuned, and the same goes with Karl Egeloff, who's also pursuing the same record. So much more exciting stuff to come. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to go have a gin and tonic and a nap. We love you, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.